friends at Stevivor.com. It's me, Mario. Hee you guys number one.
It's the Friendly Fire Show, episode 177. That's the third of our three-part E3 2021 series of podcasts. This time we're looking at Nintendo, Bandai Namco, maybe, if we can be bothered, and just wrapping up things in general, because technically it's done, unless you take our weird schedule, which kind of runs into like July 2021 because they're like E3 adjacent things. Anyway, I'm rambling already. I'm Steve from Stevivor.com.
I'm
website.
Ben from Stevivor.
And I'm Jay from Stevivor.
Joining us from another website is no one. It is the last thing that we have to do for E3, so just bear with me. Yes, Ben's not drinking. Jay has, I think, a Jim Beam from what I saw.
What is that you're pouring? This is an audio medium for most people, so you have to explain what you're doing.
It's Young's. It's a Tasmanian sparkling wine, because I admittedly had one of these left because pride, but that's done. That's an absolute vodka and lime, or soda and lime and vodka and lime, and we're done. Basically, we talk about this for an hour, and then we have nothing left to do with E3 2021. And that's not true. I have a Sea of Thieves thing coming out in a week, but after that, no more E3, which is good because it was awful. But we'll get to that later. Ben, I want you to talk more about things because Nintendo. You're a Nintendo guy.
That's right. Well, let's just do a quick whip around of what we thought of Nintendo's conference. I already know what you thought, Steve. And I had a similar feeling when I first woke up and I watched it at 6 a.m. on replay. I thought, this is garbage. And on hindsight, I kind of realized I was looking at it wrong, from the wrong angle, because I was thinking, I got so hyped up about the Switch Pro that I was thinking about this as like a console thing, when what this was the Nintendo handheld show. It was all handheld games, so until this generation, basically, Nintendo went from console to handheld. They bounced around. You'd get a period where they'd do a bunch of handheld games, and you'd do a period where they do a bunch of console games. And rarely would they do both together well. This is the handheld period, but we weren't expecting it. We were thinking it's going to be 4K, not next gen, not current gen, slightly last gen type of stuff from the Switch Pro. That didn't happen. We got a bunch of games which would normally have been on the 3DS or DS or whatever, but that doesn't exist. So it's the handheld show. And I suspect that's because they can make these games in like 12 months.
But randomly, no Pokemon.
No, and so that's the other thing we should consider. Like, everyone's going to say Xbox is so much better. Xbox is an 18-month show. All their games are mostly coming out next year. Nintendo only mentioned one, which is Zelda, coming out next year. And they didn't mention Pokemon, their biggest game for this year. So it wasn't as good as Xbox. Nothing was going to live up to that level, but it was also much more reserved. It was on a level, which is just the next few months, really. So I think that's why. What did you guys think?
It just all seemed like nothing flashed to me. I wouldn't call myself a big Nintendo fanboy or anything like that. And I was keen to see some Zelda stuff, but it just, here's this game that's already out on something else. Here's this other game that's already out on somewhere else. And to be honest, I think the Switch is impressive in that some of these games can actually get out there and play on it. They talked about the Doom DLC, and I'm a big Doom fan. And I think it's impressive that they can get Doom running on a console like that. But yeah, it didn't feel new. I was just sitting there going, okay, what's the next thing that's 2 years old that they're going to talk about?
So I was saying that we were going to skip all the stuff that is already on a different platform and is now coming to Switch. But like that, this is, in terms of the generality, that is exactly what I was focused on. Because if you want a Danganronpa or a Tony Hawk, Pro Skater 1 and 2, or a Life is Strange, or a Doom Eternal, Ancient Gods Part 1, Part 2's out now. Like it's always behind. It's always stuff that you've already played, but it's stuff that is now coming to the Switch. And half the time now, especially with like Xbox's press conference, it's like, okay, Hades, yes, it's been out for a while, but now it's on Game Pass soon and it's free. So if you haven't played it, you don't have to spend money to play it. You just can play it if you have the subscription. And with Switch, it's like, have you played this already, but you want it portable? Cool. Drop like another $60 and then you can do it again. And like, it's just to the point where I don't need that. I'm excited about the new games. I'm excited to hear what Ben especially thinks of like things like Metroid, but we'll get into that in a second. So I'm derailing our generality conversation. We might as well just get into specifics.
That's it. So there were 2 new games announced, basically, that were actually new. There are several remakes, remasters. So we're not talking about the old games. There's a bunch of stuff being remade, which goes back to what I was just saying, in that I think in COVID time, they realized, hey, a remake of something or a reimagining in case of Mario Party is much quicker than making a whole new game. And I think there's a good chance they planned the Switch Pro for this year. That was the idea, and it just hasn't been able to happen. So they've had to kind of scramble to get some stuff together. And with that, if that's what's happened, then they've done a pretty good job. If that isn't what happened, then this is just classic Nintendo, temper your expectations, Nintendo, then what I should have expected that. So the 2 new games, there is one big one. So do you guys know about Metroid Dread and its history?
Not as much as you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of people probably would have thought they've just announced it today, but this was announced like 15 years ago or leaked or something like that. So it was a DS game, and it was just in like internal documents. Because there was no internet at the time, basically. Every magazine in 2005-06 said this is definitely coming to E3, and it didn't. A few years later, Nintendo tried again, like it all got leaked. There was a rumor in Metroid Prime 3 where it kind of said Metroid Project Dead about to drop or something, and everyone was like, oh, that's it. It didn't happen. They actually came out today and they said in the developer interview, yeah, we'd started this in 2005, then we picked it up in 2010, and the DS just wasn't good enough. Like we just couldn't get what we wanted. So it's that same game from back then. That's why people are excited about it, because they were talked about it for so long. And we haven't had a 2D Metroid since Fusion in 2002. So it's been a long time. We haven't had a Metroid game really since 2007. There was that nonsense in 2010. So yeah, that's why it's exciting.
This is the sequel to that Fusion game, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why they put Metroid 5 on the screen, because that was 4 technically. Super Metroid 3, then 1 and 2. So 1 got remade for the GBA, I think, and 2 was remade a couple of years ago for 3D. And that's why they kind of said, we've got the proof of concept and you can do it. So yeah.
Your internet dropped out, but we got most of that. Just for like
really?
a brief second. Does that mean that we're going to get Metroid Prime 4 in like 2032 then at this development cycle?
I would love to know what Retro Studios has been doing. So they finished Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze in 2014, and they got reassigned to Prime 4 in 2019. That's a 5-year gap in there to have made a game. We have no idea what they were doing. Apparently nothing. Yeah.
There's some giant development windows. That's not a sentence, but you get what I mean. Like Shin Megami Tensei 5, which also was at this conference and is coming out in a couple months-ish. I can't quite remember. Thank you. Like that was announced in 2017, as was Metroid Prime 4, but like we've not heard anything about Metroid Prime 4 since, basically, apart from like Retro taking it on 2 years later, which means
it started again.
Yeah,
that was announced by Reggie. Remember Reggie? Like back when Nintendo was fun.
His body is ready. It's
no
ready.
Offense to Bowser, but he's no Reggie yet.
Correct. But it's Metroid Dread is getting people are pretty interested in it, and it's like Metroid in 2D or 3D form equally as good, or no? You tell me.
A lot of people will say that the 2D games are better because they're the Japanese style. They are the Metroidvania that people say that every game that's like that is. Every time you talk about Ori, people like Metroidvania. There hasn't been a Metroidvania game since 2002, like by Metroid. So I prefer the 3D games. That's where I started. I would strongly recommend you play Prime. Unfortunately, there's no easy way to do it because Nintendo didn't allow you, but there's a way on PC if you're so inclined to play it much better than any official Nintendo way.
Dolphin?
That's
what?
It.
Is a mammal. Dolphin is a mammal. That's the thing.
Right. Yep. That's it. So yeah, I prefer the 3D games. They kind of threw it out there. Oh yeah, Prime's in development. This hasn't taken over that, but it's going to be one of those games which is in development for so long that we probably have to give up and then kind of enjoy the hope when it's finally there. So much like this one, this has been in development for 15 years technically, even though they probably made it all last year. It was revealed 15 years ago. So I guess you're right. That puts Prime 4 on about 2040 on that schedule.
Just be grateful you're getting it. And you can pre-order it now, and there's a special edition with stuff. No amiibos. No, 2 amiibos. Sorry.
2 amiibos. I don't really get it. They've already sold out like everywhere, and I don't really get it. But never mind. So that's one game. The other one was WarioWare, and I've forgotten what its subtitle is already. I'm sure it has a wacky Charles Martinet type of thing.
Get it together. Get it together, Ben.
Yeah.
You're so unprofessional. That's the name of the game.
Did anyone see the nipple tweezing clip in WarioWare? Did anyone else notice that, or was that just me?
Please detail this in excruciating detail, Jay.
Well, I mean, it just had, everyone saw the trailer. It had little clips of their little micro games. They're not mini games, but they're micro games, so smaller than a mini game. But there was one section where there was a statue of it looked like a statue. It was all grey, and it was an Adonis type guy, buff, 6-pack and all that. And the 2 players seemed to looked like they were either tweezing his chest hair or potentially his nipples.
That's what WarioWare is. So yeah probably.
I'm suddenly far more interested in WarioWare. Get it together.
I think it's your type of game, Steve. They're like 3 to 5 second mini games, micro games.
I don't mind a WarioWare. I don't mind a Mario Party. We'll get to that, I'm sure, later on. Yes, we will. If they have like an Elon Musk skin, I'll go to the eShop and buy that as well. Like, screw it. It's great. Like, I don't mind. Like, I like things like 1-2 Switch, and I like things like a Mario Party that's fleshed out. And WarioWare has always been fun. And it's one of those games where you probably wouldn't play it on your own, but if you have people over in the before times when you could have people over, it's fun. And like, it's not like super duper expensive. And it's just kind of like, it's like a Jackbox party pack. Like, boom.
I actually don't know what it costs. If it's anywhere near full price, it's a fail, but it should be like a $20 game. It probably isn't, knowing Nintendo.
Yeah, well, that's true. I didn't check.
I know Mario Party sells at a premium. Well, the last one did, so I assume this one
that's a full price game. Mario Party is a bit more in depth than WarioWare. WarioWare's done in like 10 minutes.
Well, there was, I'm almost tempted to go and Google it, because there was like news a couple weeks ago where Nintendo was canvassing people via email to ask what they would pay for a new WarioWare game. So hopefully people responded correctly and said not full price, and that has somehow swayed Nintendo's thinking. You guys talk. I'm going to Google it and figure out what this thing
absolutely
costs.
has. And I've had the view for a long time that Nintendo are like the Apple of video games. They charge what they want because they know people will pay it, and they can get away with it. And I think they have a very entitled view
for the most part.
And they don't drop pricing in Australia. Like, those games are the same price for the history of time. Because like you were just saying, Jay, people will pay it. So why would you put it on sale? It's $70 apparently,
compared to 80. So I think it's too much. But it'll, Amazon will sell it for 50 probably. Still.
Yeah, I'm looking at EB Games. So yeah, I think you're correct.
Yeah.
So those are the only 2 proper new games. I guess
totally
like Zelda is new, but we already knew about Zelda. Do we want to talk about Zelda Breath of the Wild 2? Or sorry, it's not called that. It's called the sequel to The Legends of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, we don't.
Is that its actual title? Is that its working title?
No.
Apparently, there's something in the title that will let slip the dogs of war. Let slip the plot of the game. It being, is it
like a Snakes on the Plane type of title?
It's Breath of the Wild 2. It's a sequel to Breath of the Wild. I don't know how like a title can like completely ruin it, but whatever. That's what Nintendo has said. Exactly. So we're not going to find out, but the game comes out in 2022. Was there a more definitive?
Hopefully. They said we're aiming for 2022. So if anything,
maybe before
no
Starfield.
Guarantees. Yeah, well, they could be going head to head.
Yeah.
And in a new Nintendo twist, Link is showing some nipple with his new outfit, and it's 2
nipple conversations in this show.
I know.
There's 20 minutes in.
Nintendo's like letting loose, and it will take place more in the skies. Is kind of what I've picked up from that. Like, it's Breath of the Wild, but
with
like
sky.
That. Yeah, it looks like there's a few extra, floating islands. And what did they show? He climbs up through a cliff by converting himself into water or something. So new abilities. I don't know. It looks like it's going to be pretty much the same, but the first one was amazing. So I've got no problems with that.
It's a classic sequel using the same assets, which lets them do it much quicker, but they're still taking their time. So yeah, it's one of those where you know it's going to be good based on the first one. We don't really need to see anything, but people, or specifically hardcore Nintendo fans, are desperate to see anything, and they gave them a little taste. That's all they wanted. That's all they needed. Hopefully we see some real gameplay next year.
And new nipple. And
yes, that's all you wanted.
People who draw like is it 42 or 52? People who draw like risque things are probably like foaming at the mouth about extra nipple or additional nipple. Just like they did when he cross-dressed in Breath of the Wild. So like that's fueling fan art for the next at least 16 to 18 months. Will they make amiibos that let you fast travel?
Absolutely. There will be some annoying trash like that. So this year is the 35th anniversary of Zelda. For some reason, 35 is a big deal to Nintendo because they made all this big deal of Mario's 35th anniversary. I didn't realize I thought you did 30 and 40, not 35. Anyhow, people assume they're going to release Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask exactly like, even if they just upscaled ports. But they specifically said today, we have no more plans. All we're doing is DLC for Hyrule Warriors, which is a fine game, but it's not my thing. It's not Zelda level quality. And we're doing a Game & Watch with 2 NES games and a Game Boy game on $80. Garbage.
What would you rather have? Like, and Game & Watch is not an option because no one wants that unless you are a proper diehard. Would you rather have Majora's Mask or Ocarina of Time? There's only one correct answer, by the way.
In my youth, I would have said Ocarina of Time, but having played Majora's Mask more recently, it's a great game. And I didn't play it when I was a kid because I didn't understand it. It's too much thinking through the days thing, but it's a great game. And it's very much what Breath of the Wild 2 should be. Reusing the same assets to get something out quicker and making something totally weird with it. I hope they do a similar type of thing.
Jay, you can answer the different answer, but you already saw me celebrating when Majora's Mask was correct. But that's
I've got another different answer. Should I be embarrassed to say that I haven't played either of them?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Breath of the Wild was the first Zelda game I've ever jumped into.
Oh, wow.
And loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Do you still have a 3DS? Or do you have access to a 3DS?
Oh, I could get one.
Majora's Mask. I've not played as many Zelda games as Ben, but I've played Skyward Sword and Twilight Princess and Breath of the Wild and Ocarina of Time, which I didn't really like, but like Majora's Mask is just like insanely weird. It's like Twin Peaksy of like the Zelda universe in a very condensed way. And I think it is oft overlooked, but not really because people love it. But I think like it doesn't get as much credit as it should.
It's more obscure. And the 3DS version is much better than the 64 version, even though it's in 240p. So it's actually kind of hard to play now, having had a 720p handheld. It's way better. They ironed out some bugs. It's much nicer. And there's probably like 4 or 5 N64 games that hold up and are playable still. Like the rest are not playable by today's standards, and that's one of them. So still
I'll jump on it.
That's totally a segue to 64 things being like recycled into a new air quotes game.
Do you know what, Steve? I can see you hating this, but I'm actually very excited for this because the only good Mario parties are the Nintendo 64 Mario parties. And we used to play them like in uni days. So, 2010, 11, we would play the 64 ones, get a case of beer, play some 64 Mario Party. It was great. The only problem is they had the games in it that ruin your controller because you got to spin the stick around like that. The one that Nintendo sent out gloves for because there were so many legal cases in the US of people like getting blisters on their hands. So they're like, you need this glove to play this game. And they just like shredded your controller. So it's 5 maps from the 3 N64 games.
Quickly, you're talking about Mario Party Superstars on Switch. Okay.
Yes. 5 maps from the 64 games and then 100 mini games from like all the games. So not just the 64 ones across the year. So this is a classic rehash, but they've remade it. As I say, something they probably made really quickly. And I suspect they did it because if you look up the sales numbers for Super Mario Party on Switch, unbelievable. It's like over 10 million. Like one of the best-selling games of last generation, any platform.
But
they
also
sold it without multiplayer online too, initially.
Exactly. Well,
which was amazing. I bought that not realizing, idiot me, should have done my research. I bought it during lockdown thinking, I'll be able to play this with some mates that have got it. And then I realized that they couldn't release it. And the idea of having it not as a multiplayer blew my mind. So this one at least comes with it out of the box.
I'm reasonably sure I put that in my review, but now I'm gonna have to go back and double check and frantically edit.
I mean, I totally read that in your review, Steve.
I think I did. But like that game,
they just added it, by the way.
Gangbusters, but was gross. Like it was not.
You didn't like it.
Not compared to like the 64 era Mario Party games. Like I didn't have a Nintendo 64, but my cousins did, and that was always like the Christmas or the Thanksgiving or like the thing that we did as like a family group. Like just like all the parents went upstairs and whatever, and we all went downstairs and played Mario Party, and it was insane. And I have like very fond memories, and I've never been able to kind of like match those memories.
Exactly.
And you go to a WarioWare maybe, or you go to like a Jackbox Party Pack instead, and hopefully this will rekindle that in my life.
I've never been able to move to beyond 64 Mario parties. No one's interested in playing. They just want to go back and play the one they know. So it's for people. It's for us. It's for the older Nintendo fans. I'm sure there's kids who like Mario Party 10. That's the jam. I hate these dang old ones or the newer ones since then. But yeah.
Back in my day in 1995, I just went down to my cousin's basement and played Mario Party.
That's it.
Yeah.
So they're bringing that back. They've no doubt made this super quickly. It will sell 10 million again. And I'm actually excited for that one.
And in the same vein, if you're a Sega fan instead, you could also replay other games from your childhood.
Yeah. So Super Monkey Ball.
Yeah. What is it? Banana Blitz?
Banana
Mania.
It was really long. I didn't actually quite get it. They showed like a reel of here's like the 6 Super Monkey Ball games. Is it all those games remastered? Is it a small selection?
3, I think.
Okay. Well, it's still pretty good. Yeah, it's Super Monkey Ball's good. I don't necessarily need to play them again, but if you haven't played them, it's worth playing. This is what made me feel this morning. This whole thing is so 2002 because back then it was all about like Super Monkey Ball on GameCube and Advance Wars on GBA. Like we're just back in exactly the same moment. So, yeah.
Well, Super Monkey Ball is on like everything, PC, every console. Advanced Wars, you just mentioned, that's a thing that's exclusive to Switch. So that's at least a Nintendo specific thing.
Yeah, well, this is why the handheld Nintendo fans are enjoying this, because the two things they thought we'd never get is another 2D Metroid and another Advance Wars, because Nintendo seemed to abandon them in 2002 or maybe 5. Advance Wars, I think, did get a DS game. I'm not really a strategy turn-based type of player, but I did like Advance Wars, so I might try. It's 1 or 2 remastered. It's a classic. There's no way they would have released this on a home console on Wii or Wii U. It's the handheld time where they can get away with it saying, oh, it's the handheld. That's fine. If you just release that on a console, there's no way it would fly because it's too basic. But they remaking this game probably took them almost no time. So that's why it's coming out. That's why we're not getting a new game. It appeased those people. Nintendo definitely heard, why aren't you doing Advance Wars? And they've plugged the gap with it. So it'll probably do pretty well.
It has the worst name.
It's got a classic Japanese name because they've done the old 1+2 rebooted or whatever it's called.
It's Boot Camp, because boot camp is a thing with an army.
Oh yeah, there you go. Well, better than every Final Fantasy name ever. Like,
oh yeah, that's
someone sitting in that meeting room going, "Oh, got it!"
Yeah,
and no one was impressed.
Something that, like Jay, you said you were kind of keen on is Project Zero / Fatal Frame, depending on where you live in the world. Maiden of Blackwater, which is a 2014 Wii U game that is now being remastered on, again, not just Switch, but like everything by, is it Koei Tecmo? Yes. No.
Yes.
Something like that.
Fatal Frame was the first game that the original, the first game that ever scared me to the point where I had to put it down and couldn't go back to it.
Oh, really?
Really? Yeah. Which one? Yeah. Not that one.
No, the first one.
Like Fatal Frame proper.
Yeah.
What was that on? And when-ish?
Well,
sorry to put you on the spot.
What I played that on was probably not on what it should have been played on, so that's about as far as I should mention
Dolphin.
That.
Oh wait, is a mammal. That's whatever. Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
But yeah, it genuinely scared me, and I don't scare easily. particularly with games. So for a game that had an impact on me like that, and I never got a chance to play any of the others. So this is the one thing I thought, here's another game that's been out before, but this one actually grabbed my interest. That said, I couldn't help but notice that really creepy section of it. When I say creepy, they were talking about the photo mode. And as they were talking about the photo mode, there was just a really creepy view of one of the characters, and it straight away made me think they're appealing to either the creeps and the pervs or the 13-year-old boys who will, use photo mode for the wrong reasons. But other than that, I'm actually pretty keen to get on it when it comes out, because I want to actually finish one and not, and not puss out.
Nice. Well, not nice. Nice. I don't know.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things that I said nice to, and I regret some of them, but I appreciate your thoughts. And please save me. Please save me.
Well, I don't know anything about this Fatal Frame. It's just interesting because it's like how many Wii U games are there left to go to Switch, and they've managed to dig another one out. So there's almost nothing left. This game sells for like $300 on Wii U, which is like outrageous. So those people are out of a job now because you can just buy it on every other platform.
Like, I don't feel like this is one I'm going to revisit. It's
No.
like it seems like a bad Silent Hill or like Resident Evil clone that like hasn't been continued in the current sphere climate, probably for reasons that are it's not great. But who knows? Maybe we'll be surprised. Koei Tecmo is also, I think, behind that weird Final Fantasy Origins game that's coming on every platform, but like it was in the Square Enix presentation that looked like it was like a PS2 game. So, I'm not saying there's a level of quality that is kind of below the bar in comparison to the rest of things, but I am also saying that at the same time. So,
okay.
Yeah, cool.
Let's move it along.
All right.
This game that none of us know anything about.
Is there anything else with the Nintendo that you wanted to talk about, people? No. There's Tekken character coming to Smash.
We'll get a direct for that. We'll get another direct for Pokemon, which are their biggest things for this year. People just love Smash Bros. And Pokemon. So I am hoping, and this is probably misguided, that they did have some bigger stuff to announce that wasn't handheld styled. The Switch Pro got delayed. All those games had to be delayed too. So it's possible. Unlikely.
Do you think in maybe September-ish we'll get news of like the Switch Pro for holiday, or no? What do you think?
I think it's coming next year now. I think maybe it was planned for this year, a year after the Xbox and PlayStation launch, probably would have made sense. But we've talked about it a couple of episodes ago, the silicon thing, which makes it very hard to manufacture any console. The fact Nintendo seems to have struggled more than anyone with development during this time. And the fact that the Switch is still selling crazily good at the moment means they don't really need to. And they want to extend the life of this thing as much as they can. They don't want another. Most of Nintendo's platforms have only lasted about 5 years, less for the Wii U. So they probably want to try to get this closer to 10 if they can. And I think maybe if they push it to next year, it's just a win all around. So they get more games out. Probably Breath of the Wild will look amazing because it'll be like, oh, look, it's actually now in fake 4K. There's no way it's native 4K. It'll be like maybe checkerboard upscaled. But yeah, I doubt it. It might happen, but I really doubt it. Jay?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a Switch by Christmas, a Switch Pro Christmas next year. But I couldn't help but notice, and it could just be me, but the visuals that they showed from the new Rabbids game seem to be a little better than what I'm used to seeing on the Switch.
Too good.
Yeah. So yeah, it seemed to me that maybe this is something that they're that might have been footage from the what is to be the Switch Pro.
Good catch.
Is that the case?
That's speculation, obviously.
Is that the case, or is that like is that Ubi
CGI only?
Well, yeah. Is that Ubi doing like a Watch Dogs reveal
Yeah,
back in the day.
that's a good point. That could be running on the most powerful machine that they've got in their office.
Which, yeah, but like it also, and I what do you think about silicone chip set shortages in general? Because that's something facing like Nvidia's things and
It's everything.
Xboxes, and yeah, like is it like was this supposed to be an announcement that just couldn't be because they couldn't make enough to satisfy Nintendo's, like they obviously have to like recoup the costs initially to make these things before they sell them all. So if they couldn't make enough, maybe they just went, now we're not doing it yet. We'll wait. Is that a factor, or am I just being too?
I think Nintendo have had enough trouble with selling, trying to sell consoles that are just not available. Switch has had some problems. They had the same problems with I remember back when the Wii first came out, it was impossible to buy a Wii around that first Christmas. They've been through it before just because their product's so popular. I expect that. Yeah, I think that they've held back because they see what has happened with the Xbox and the PlayStation, that no one can buy them. You can't even pre-order them at the moment. So why not wait? Maybe even review their builds when the hardware's available, and they might be able to do something even a little bit better. And with new hardware, squeeze a little bit more battery life out of, up their specs a little bit with the advantage of time.
And Nintendo still has this problem with the Switch right now, basically. So why would you announce / release a new Switch if you're not really pressed to?
Yeah, exactly. As Ben said, they're making enough money selling the Switch as it is, and it's not being discounted anywhere, I don't think. So they're still making just as much money off it, if not maybe even more so as things get cheaper to build down the line.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it'll come out maybe next September because they'll want to have that push. They'll have 3 models on sale if they do that. So they'll want to clear out probably the current one and discontinue it. And then just have the Pro for people like us, and you have the Lite for kids and entry-level people. So they'll want to clear it out near Christmas. It'll probably come out. I don't see it coming out in like February or something because it's just, how do you move that stock? I do think just the style of game, they all seem to be that handheld portable mode style. The fact that they've all come out now, it just reeks to me of, we're getting rid of these ones now because next year we need to push look how great these ones look on the Pro. It's too weird to have that style all lumped together otherwise.
I wish the Nintendo would kind of just like shoot for the moon. Like they're always like half a step.
That's not what they do.
I know, but they're always like half a step behind, and it's just like it's always like a game of catch up, really. And like it worked out for the Wii because it was like a cool concept that was like it's some weird hybrid of this, that, and the other, and it didn't work for Wii U because it didn't work because it was just like and like Switch has once again hit that cool like niche gap in the market, but like now it's bad. Not bad. It's lesser visuals, lesser resolution, lesser power, and yes, there's the gimmick of the handheld, but also like it came out at a time where like we're all stuck at home, so it's not like you're on the bus or on the train or somewhere like on vacation just playing on your Switch. So like I just wish it was at least equal to what other people are putting out, because then you get like a Doom Eternal or whatever day one on this console because it's powerful enough to play it as like PC and blah 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 blah. And that's not going to happen. I know that's not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
I wish that would happen.
I saw someone the other day say that Nintendo realized when the Xbox basically killed the GameCube, even though they both did poorly compared to the PS2, the GameCube should have dominated. Like it had, people thought initially it was more powerful, but it wasn't. But it had all these known franchises that initially had the third-party support, and everyone was going, what's Bill Gates doing? And then by the end of that generation, especially when the 360 launched, like Xbox just took off. And that's where Nintendo realized there's not space for 3 consoles competing with each other. And since then, they haven't tried. So I don't know why at the start of this, I do know why. At the start of this generation, they said, this is a console which you can play as a handheld. And they did that to protect the 3DS because that was their successful product at the time. They didn't want to tank it. If they'd said from the start, this is a handheld, which if you like, you can play on your TV, it sounds like such a much better prospect. Like it's different. It's amazing you can play The Witcher 3 on a handheld, but as soon as you say you can play The Witcher in like SD on your Switch, it doesn't sound so good. So they should have always framed it as a handheld that you can play on your TV. It's different. It still seems good.
And I know I'm an Xbox fanboy, but Jay, what is my counter argument to what Bendis said? Yes, you can play these things handheld, but you can also get like an adapter for your phone. And with a certain product, you play The Witcher 4 or Halo Infinite on your phone handheld. And you don't have to have a giant, powerful handheld device because you can just have maybe like 5G internet and just stream to your phone. Like Nintendo is getting pushed out, in my opinion.
Yeah, you can do that, and I think that's where it's pretty clear that that the Sony and Microsoft are literally trying to do that to compete with Nintendo. But for us in Australia, I mean, 5G might be able to do the job, but only for $1 million if you're willing to pay for a mobile plan to support it, because the data transmission on that is pretty high. So, and you're not going to, it's pretty rare anyway that someone's going to have a real need to use that sort of service in their own home where the console is situated on their own Wi-Fi network. Why would you, unless you only had one TV and maybe your partner's watching something else? So there is
which a lot of people do. That's a good way to.
If you have good internet and someone is watching the TV that your Xbox is sitting on, and you could play a game on your phone because your NBN can support a Wi-Fi connection to your phone, so you can just like connect your Backbone or your Razer, whatever it's called, or you're just like your clip on your controller. You're not paying for like a $500 Switch that is like outputting in maybe 4K eventually, but right now like properly 1080p.
I agree to an extent, but not really.
But you don't get Mario Party and Zelda. I also understand the appeal of Nintendo's like first party games. I honestly do, but I don't know.
How often do you pick up your controller and stream? Like you need to take off the phone case, because like the Razer Kishi I have is good. Like it basically controls like a Switch, but it's not quite as comfortable. You need to take off the phone case, put the phone in there, change to like streaming app, load a game. It crashes the first time, you load it again. It doesn't recognize the controller. Like it takes 20 minutes to start playing. Switch is on straight away, except for mine, which a couple of days ago, I tried to turn on, which is completely dead because I haven't turned it on for 6 months. And I had to do all this troubleshooting. Nintendo's website's telling me it's ruined. I found some guy on YouTube who's like, no, you need to take off the Joy-Cons. Don't put it in the dock, plug it directly into the power for like 2 hours. Then Nintendo says hold down the power button for 12 seconds to reboot. You've got to hold it down for like 30 seconds, and then it restarted. I'm like, oh my God. Anyway, if you haven't used your Switch for a while, turn it on.
I haven't in a while, to be honest. So that's also a problem for me, but that's just me.
Well, that's how to fix it. So there's a hot tip.
You should write a guide.
I think I use my Switch in handheld mode. Probably only when on a plane. So it's been a while since I've done that.
A what?
Yeah, one of those. Yeah, I got it so I could play games with my kid. So there's just because there's an abundance of games, but the portability of it, it sits in my bag when I go to work. But I'm watching TV on my tablet. So.
I meant like things like Hades, amazing.
That's the best game for a console like the Switch. I've got a friend who will get everything he can on the Switch. He's got other consoles too, but he just loves the Switch for some reason. For me, if I'm choosing a game that's available on all consoles, it's pretty rare I'm going to go to the Switch version of it, unless it is something like Hades, because it's bite-sized gaming moments. That it doesn't matter if you get bumped by someone on the train or if you have to stop to pay attention to what you're doing during your day job. But yeah, I'm a bit over it.
And if third-party publishers, developers, like in the case of Hades, enable things like cross progression, like I will play Hades on my PC, which is in front of me right now. If you're looking at the video, I will play on Steam and get so far, and then like if I know I'm going to go somewhere and it's going to take like an hour to get to where I'm going, like back in the before times, because I never leave this bloody room, I will like take my Switch and sync my cross progression save and play Hades for like an hour, and then like I know that when I can sync back and play on my computer again, like it's like if you are developing a game for Steam and you're not Nintendo, that is what you should be doing. You should have cross progression, cross save, cross everything that is cross. So like I paid for it twice, and I do not regret paying for it twice, because that's when I will do it. I'd rather pay for Hades twice than pay for like Super Monkey Ball again, because I don't care. And I'd rather play for like I'd rather pay multiple times for a game that I'm actually invested in, that's new and current and amazing, because I'm happy to support the developer and happy to support me playing in a space where I can play however I want.
Resident Evil 4, just buy it again. Do you know what the dream would be, Steve?
What?
Game Pass on Switch, xCloud only. So we don't need to worry about these dodgy phone controllers. You can just stream to your Switch. That room has been around for a while. I think there's no chance, because what did Nintendo get out of it? The answer to that is they sell more hardware. People buy a Switch for that purpose exactly, and they would get a licensing cut. So you could play Halo on your Switch.
I would pay extra to do that. I would happily do that, rather than having to like tether my phone or whatever else. I'd rather just, or like I'd tether my phone to my Switch, I guess, if I was on the go. But I would happily do that because it's like purpose built for like, it's not a shitty phone with like a thing attached to it.
So I just said phone with a shitty thing attached to it.
Yes, you win. Correct.
Won't happen, but it would be great. Phil, yes. Make it happen. When you speak to Phil next, just suggest that to him.
Me mate, Phil. G'day, mate.
Is he going to get his Control or Guardians of the Galaxy via their cloud streaming, which is, I don't know. I've tried it here. That version of that demo of Control that they brought out on the Switch, and as expected, because it was connecting to servers in the US, I think it was absolute trash and unplayable. So if they ever bring that out here, which I assume that they're going to, given that Guardians of the Galaxy is going to be a thing, because that's only by cloud streaming, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd forgotten until today that Switch was doing cloud streaming. Like, oh, that's right. When they showed it, I thought, how is this going to possibly run on Switch? This must be on Switch Pro. They've accidentally released it now. But then it came up at the end, Cloud Edition. And yeah, you're right. In Australia, off of Nintendo's dodgy, cheap servers, they're like KO. They don't put enough money into their back-end infrastructure. So Microsoft, with its data centers everywhere, can dominate this. They could lease some to Nintendo, perhaps, something like that. But yeah, I don't think this will work here, but it reminded me they're still doing it. So
that'll be part of the Game Pass on Switch deal.
If you have a Switch, do you also have another console? Is that like kind of like accepted?
Or
is
a PC, yes. You have another platform.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
like if you want to play Guardians of the Galaxy, which is one of my probably like bests of E3, because I got to go into like a deep dive. You can play it on Switch with cloud, or you could just get it on every other platform, and it's gonna run in like 4K, 60 frames, or 1080. No, well, they said that. They said 4K. Yeah, I think so. Shit.
Well, maybe
1080 60 and 4K 30. I can't remember because I'm tired. But like it will be a definitively
it'd be better.
More better. Oh, God. That's words experience than on Switch, especially on cloud, especially in Australia.
I've just remembered one audience who may want to play it. Children who only have one platform. I didn't have many consoles when I was a kid. You say get the one if you're lucky to. So yes, I forgot about them. You can't just buy your second console because you want to play Guardians of the Galaxy. So there's that group.
Well, we talked about Guardians a ton. And this is a segue. We've talked about Guardians a ton. I think it's like everything that Avengers is not. It's one of my bests of, because we all picked two each and we tried to make sure we didn't overlap. I don't know if I have much more to say about it. It's just like it's by Eidos Montreal. There we go. Who did Deus Ex? It's a single player. It's a single player narrative focused game, which looks good. It has like a weird hybrid of like comic and MCU, and I am down for it. And I'm excited. Like I could have picked like a million Microsoft games because let's be honest, Microsoft destroyed everything else, but we'll get to that later on. So like picking something else that wasn't we're gonna kill chaos. Guardians was an actual bright point of the Square Enix press conference for me, and I hope you guys are potentially equally as excited about it as I am. I don't know.
Looks like they captured the humor of it really well. But I think they've got the original writers involved in it, so that would kind of make sense.
Adjacent.
The gameplay kind of looked a little bit off to me. I mean, it's hard to tell in a trailer, and I don't know what it was about it. It just looked like, what I'm worried about is that you're going to have this same old thing where you go into a room, kill the bad guys, go down a corridor, another big room, kill back, because that really seems to be all that. It's all that stood out for me anyway. That said, if it's funny and got a good story, then I'm down with it. I'm just.
I think that's what it will be, but I think they'll do it well. I think it will be the story will make that enjoyable and it will ramp up well. So yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, the familiar characters that everyone, if you haven't seen the Guardians of the Galaxy films by now, then there's something wrong. So everyone's going to know the characters well enough. If it's an easy game to pick up and play, then it'll do well. But movie games are a bit hit and miss, more miss. So,
but comic book games can be great because we have Spider-Man, which is very good,
and Deadpool.
Yeah, that's right.
Deadpool is good too. It's that weird thing where like you have five characters that you're really controlling, but you're playing as Star-Lord, and you can hit like I'm guessing like left bumper or something or left trigger, and like that's when you can call in the powers of your other people. So like you're technically managing five people, but you're playing as one person. And I'm not sure how that's going to work.
It'll be like Mass Effect, where you just say, "All right, guy, use your power now," but I'm still this guy.
But there's not like a freeze time.
Oh, really?
Well, from what we saw in gameplay, there's like in like Mass Effect, which is like it's a very good comparison, like in terms of like space epic and team. Like you hold down a button and like everything slows down. You can like pick what you want to do, and like it's all granulated. This just seems like you're real time, like hitting a button and like then hitting like a controller like ABXY to shoot off a power. So it's very fast paced, which like almost to the point where like you'll just play as yourself and like maybe you turn on some AI thing where they like auto use their powers and you just hope for the best kind of thing. I don't know. Like that's my biggest concern, I suppose, but I still think it has potential.
I'm just glad to be playing a single player game. There's several of them. Like the last few years, especially with what Avengers did, it seemed to be like, no, everything needs to be a live game. We're adding more stuff forever. It has to be multiplayer. But if you look at what I played this year, so like Hitman, Resident Evil, what just came out, Ratchet and Clank, Mass Effect re-release, like I've been on a heavy single player binge and there's more to come. Like I'm glad that some of these AAA games are staying on that path.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Don't need friends anymore.
Well, Resident Evil's Dead by Daylight update came out today, Ben. So I don't know why I'm whispering, but it's the ASMR bit of this podcast, Ben. If you could just learn how to play Dead by Daylight with me, that would be amazing.
I'm gonna pass on that because it's getting creepy.
It's so good. Okay, sorry. I don't know why I committed and I regret it. I'm sorry.
Every listener's turned off anyway.
You're welcome.
I'm sleeping well tonight.
That was my first of two best of E3s. Jay, do you want to go with one of yours next?
Well, going completely against what Ben was saying about being happy about single player games, which I have been too lately. That said, the Battlefield trailer blew me away. I haven't, and I think why I'm so keen about is it's been a long time since I've gotten into a Battlefield game. I really enjoyed 3, and I think that was probably the last one that I played, and I played it for obsessively for probably the better part of a year. So, and I've actually now just recently started playing some multiplayer stuff with some mates. So this is going to be a good one to get into. They've never really steered me wrong. So yeah, Battlefield certainly stirred my nethers this year.
Was it like the hype of the like Battlefield Moments trailer?
Look, it was and it wasn't, because I mean, I'm not expecting the game to look like the trailer, but I do know what Battlefield's like. So I think it's pretty easy to see what's coming. And you know, and it's not going to necessarily surprise me. Like I said, they've been pretty solid in my view over the years. So and I think what are they doing? 120 something players.
8.
Yeah. On current gen, 64 on last gen.
Yeah, well, that's fine. I'm on current gen, so that's good.
Lucky you.
So are you. What are you talking about? So are you.
No, I'm lucky too.
So yeah, the trailer certainly did hype me, but it was more taking a step back and trying to be realistic of what it's actually going to be like, which will be nothing like the trailer, but still a good game. What I'm expecting anyway. So I'll probably pick that up pretty early on.
Do you consider this, Jay, to be modern warfare or like future warfare? Like it's 20 years away. What's that? Is that modern?
I really hope it's not future. I hope they don't have bullcrap in it.
Jetpacks, exoskeletons, that type of stuff.
Yeah. I don't want that. I mean, you know, I think as far future as I've enjoyed in shooting games as the Titanfall series, but I'm hoping that this is just, you know, here's a model of a particular weapon that's, you know, slightly more refined because, you know, technology's gotten better, and you know there'll be new tech. I hope it's believable tech,
Yeah,
and not sci-fi.
It's adjacent. Adjacent is the word of E3 2021. There's adjacent events. There's Summer Game Fest. There's sort of like in time with current time, but not quite in current time. Adjacent.
yes.
Sorry, Ben, what's like your first game? Maybe only game. We're running pretty long, so like just you're gonna pick Metroid, right? Pick
No.
Metroid. Oh,
We already talked about Metroid in this, so
all right.
I'll skim past them real quick. Yes, Metroid, for what we talked about earlier, it's been like almost 20 years, so I'm excited for any Metroid. I'd prefer a 3D one, but I'm still keen for this. Like Ori is one of my favorite games of last gen, and it's pretty much based on Metroid, so I'm happy to go back to a Metroid game. But my actual most excited game is Forza Horizon 5.
That's another game you can only get on Steam.
That's yeah. Yes. Let's not go there. It looked amazing. So Mexico, as we talked about when we talked about the Xbox showcase, like Forza Horizon 3 looked great at the time. And then 4 just kind of bumped things up to a whole nother level. And it seems like they've done that again. So I think it's just going to look amazing. It's going to be probably the second Xbox Series X game that looks truly current gen. I'm hoping the first one's going to be Flight Simulator, which is out next month. And based on it not really running well on anyone's PC, I'm really wondering how it's going to run on the Series X. And I hope it's just a case of it's been optimized perfectly for this console, so it runs just as good as any high-end PC.
Well, 30 frames on S and X, and higher if you have variable refresh rate, which I know your
I do,
TV
yes.
does, Ben. So there you go.
And that's fine for a game like that. Like such a slow-moving game. Everyone's always like, you got to be 60. No, you don't. For a game like that, you're in a plane that, as you complained about, takes 10 hours to get somewhere. Like you don't need 60 frames.
We're all kind of still used to 30. So if it's like that plus, yeah.
But see, Forza, I do want in 60 frames. I don't think there's a 120 mode. It's probably a type of thing where it would be great to have that option. I think they said 60 and I can't remember what resolution they said. But anyhow, looks great.
I already talked about my game 12 minutes before, so I'm gonna just defer to Jay. I think you have a better one that we haven't talked about too much, to be honest.
Oh yeah, you have the last one which we missed. We didn't talk about it. We forgot about
at
it
all. Yeah.
What are we talking about? The game Back for Blood, or are we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or what else? Oh no, not yet. We'll get to our wrap up of the entire E3 2021 conference soon.
Yeah, I mean, the Left 4 Dead series has always been a favorite of mine. So just to see something new coming out from those devs, basically the same kind of thing. It's going to look pretty. It'll be 60 frames. A game you don't have to think too hard about playing, which is really what I've been enjoying lately. I'm not enjoy the games I've been playing lately have been dumbed down. Don't have to concentrate too much. Can play for 20 minutes and then stop without any problems. And Back 4 Blood seems to be that kind of thing. So super keen. It's one of these things. It's nothing new. Just like Battlefield, it's not going to be anything that people haven't seen before, which is generally what E3 is like this year. So yeah, that's my next pick. It's what I'm keen for. So I'll probably pick that up at launch or earlier if I'm lucky.
It's
Steve.
On Game Pass,
wink.
so
it is too.
It's on Game Pass,
which I think is great for a game like that because you need people to play with. It's going to be loads of people playing it. It's not going to be like an Evolve where it just dies because no one buys it. So
absolutely
instead of world premiere, it should be Game Pass day one, which is basically like all of Microsoft's conference, to be honest.
They basically did that at the end. It was always like, play it day one, Game Pass.
Yeah.
What did they say? 30 games they talked about and 27 were coming to Game Pass at launch, which is a pretty amazing thing.
Why buy this when you can just have your subscription?
Yeah, well, I agree. That's fine for me.
Etc. Like, and I have Back 4 Blood, Forza Horizon 5, Microsoft Flight Sim, The Ascent, and something else already like loaded onto my Xbox, which like most of them were just like a 200 megabyte like placeholder. We'll get it eventually. Hades actually like fully downloaded onto it was Hades. Hades actually fully downloaded onto my Xbox. It was like 8 gig. But it's like you can't play this till August. Yeah. It's here, but you can't play it till August. So just like look at this tile on your home on like your home screen until you can play it. So too bad for you. But like I haven't paid for any of these games, but I have them. And when they all come and unlock, I can just jump straight in, and it's fantastic.
How good is technology?
How good is technology?
So we're in the wrap up now. You're basically wrapping up with how great Game Pass is.
Yes. Xbox One, obviously, because everybody else was shit. Nintendo, not as bad as I initially thought. And like Ben said before, easily like the second place. And like basically everybody else was just the worst.
Horrible.
Gearbox like won an award for most anticipated game for the only game that they announced. Like, cool, congrats for you via the ESA because you spent money to promote your live stream, I guess. Like, cool.
I really enjoyed seeing the set of the Borderlands film.
Yeah,
I got so much detail from that. It was amazing. Do you have any idea how much inside information I picked up from that video? Oh, it blew my mind. How did they shot? Fucking stupid. It was, pardon the French, it was stupid that they just did that. Like, it made me so mad.
Like, but they were worse, right? Like Capcom was meant to be even worse. I didn't watch it because it was apparently so bad. They just announced nothing.
Capcom promoted games that had already been announced, and they said, due to popular demand, we're making Village DLC for Resident Evil. That's it. The game that was like Reverse. I don't know what you're supposed to call it. The multiplayer component for Village that was supposed to come out at launch in May, which just like catastrophically failed in beta testing and didn't come out at launch, is now coming out next month. And that was the Resident Evil announcements. And there's like, there's Monster Hunter games coming up, but you already knew about that. And there's like the Great Ace Attorney, the games that have already been out in like in the East are coming out on Switch, and like they're coming. That's cool. Like, it was all gross. Bandai Namco did House of Ashes, which like I wrote a giant preview about last month, and it was the same information. So like, that's cool. Thank you for that. Gearbox announced Tina Turner's Wonderlands, which I did on purpose this time. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which is a Borderlands spinoff, which won their most anticipated game because it was their only game that's coming out. like I guess Godfall's coming on a different iteration of PlayStation.
I see that's the first time I've ever seen a big announcement for this current gen game is now coming to last gen. Like, who cares? That could be a tweet.
Because no one asked for it and no one cared on current gen. We're going to downgrade it and you can play it on last gen because hopefully we'll recoup some costs. E3 this year was basically wholly disappointing, apart from Xbox kind of like delivering the goods, if I'm going to be honest.
I think Xbox salvaged it enough that there's been worse E3s than this. So I can't think of exactly which one, but I'm sure there's been worse than this. So which is so good that I think Xbox alone was worth watching. Not worth going to LA for it. I'm glad we didn't have to for that, but worth staying up until 4 a.m. to watch it. So yeah, I think it saved enough. It showed us that Xbox is on the right track for this gen. Basically, we want the platform holders to put in a strong show. Nintendo did what they had to do. Good, decent. Xbox did exactly what they had to do. They've stepped it up massively from previous years, and we wanted to step up again next year. So PlayStation have purposely avoided E3 because they're in some sort of a feud with the ESA or something. They're going to do something next month, apparently. Hopefully they do well too, and they've got stuff to show. So they're the only ones releasing games. They just released a game while everyone else is talking nothing at E3.
Can it be at like a decent time though for us? That'd be great. I literally felt more jet lagged 2 days ago after the Microsoft and Square. Is that it? I think days have no meaning to me right now. I felt so jet lagged after that. Like I woke up and I had this like just I don't know how jet lag hits you, but like I wake up jet lagged and I just have like a sick feeling in the pit of my stomach. Like I don't want to throw up, but I feel like I'm going to throw up and I know I'm not going to throw up. And it was just the worst. And I had that the other day and I'm like, I've literally just been at home and I hated that.
Jet lag without the pleasure of a trip.
Exactly. So that sucked. I wish that Sony would have just done something, like just put it in here so we could have just like been done with it. Yeah, like just like, you know, there are a lot of games writers right now that are just like absolutely exhausted, and just the thought of like having to do this again in like a month is kind of shit, to be honest. But
it'll just be one thing. I don't think Sony have as much stuff to announce as Xbox because they haven't just gone and bought 15 studios. So I don't think it will be as intensive. And it depends what they do. Do they, in COVID times, do they follow the Xbox lead of we're only announcing 18 months ahead at most, or Nintendo's lead, we're only announcing like 3 months ahead? That seems to be their thing recently. Or do they do classic PlayStation and say we're going to Final Fantasy VII Part 2 remake is coming in 2027?
The Last of Us Part 3 and 4 and 5 and 6.
There are so many E3s we've been to where everyone said Sony killed it, but they announced games 7 years away. So I don't know if they would keep doing that now, which means they have much less to announce. But to their credit, they've been the only one releasing stuff in this generation so far. So we've got Returnal, we've got Ratchet and Clank, Spider-Man was a new game at launch. Xbox haven't released a game really. So,
well, like the Medium, but like that
wasn't even their own, was it?
That's now coming to PlayStation. So yeah,
so they haven't released a game.
Exactly. Jay, you had a very amazing insight into Devolver's press conference, which some people loved and some people hated. But regardless,
I'm sick of Devolver's press conferences. I mean, it was funny once when it was edgy, but now it's just like, you know, it's just like watching the third shitty movie in a shitty movie franchise. There was 30 minutes of presentation, 10 minutes roughly. I did the numbers roughly. It was 10 minutes of game content. So, you know, they look after a lot of indie devs. So they should be bursting at the seams with stuff. And if they're able to talk for 30 minutes, if they're able to have a 30-minute press conference and only show 10 minutes of content, that suggests to me that everything else they've got has got to be absolute trash. And what they had to show wasn't really mind blowing in the indie game space. I mean, with indie devs, you're never going to get the AAA quality, or rarely going to get that, and that's understandable. There's still some amazing indie games out there, but the only one that came close to piquing my interest was I think it's Trek to Yomi, maybe. That was the black and white samurai side scroller type game, and it just looked quite really refined for an indie game, but nothing else really blew me away.
Ben, what was that endless runner that I liked? That was, oh God, it was like
that was it Phantom Abyss.
Yes, the thing I like about
that was Temple Run, but in 3D.
Yes, oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I'm down for that. I like what Devolver does. Maria Zook, I apologize if I've stuffed up your name. She plays Nina Struthers, I guess, in the Devolver stuff. Like, she is a talent. If she had some sort of show on like an NBC or a CBS or a whatever, like if she had her own TV show, if she hosted like if she takes over for Conan on TBS, whatever, I think she's great. I think like they're very funny people. They're people who are like turning like coal into diamonds to some extent. I like what Devolver does in their marketing. I don't think their games necessarily meet that level of marketing, but I'm kind of there for it, and I had a good time watching Devolver, but also like I also realized it was.
I just think they need to do something new. Like I said, it was very funny to begin with, but then as soon as they started showing the flashbacks of the previous ones at the start of it, I'm like, all right, here we go again. This is another one of these. And I watched it all, but I was really tempted to just fast forward through the YouTube video of look on the thumbnail for the game content. So yeah, didn't do it for me.
It was funny at the start when they first made the joke about the whatever subscription pass to buy games, but then they made it 50 more times.
They milked it. They milked it so much. So.
What was was that the worst E3 presentation of this year? No,
Capcom. They didn't announce anything. It's pointless. Yeah. Why even have one?
I would vote for Gearbox.
I said no. Yes, Gearbox, because they had that awkward Randy Pitchford walking around the set of whatever with the people who didn't want to speak to him. That was
probably his first time on set too.
Also,
they already announced the one game he had. They had that game, Tina Arena, whatever you call it.
Tina Arenas, Tina Turner's Wonderlands. Yes,
but they announced that the day before at Games Fest. Like, why have a conference to just announce it again? Pointless.
On that front, then I guess Bandai Namco's presentation was the absolute worst, because they gave details of the Dark Pictures anthology House of Ashes, which we have already have been aware of. Sentence complete.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. You need some sleep.
Man, I'm so glad we're done. To be honest, like E3 on the whole has been not a waste of time. No, you know what? I'm just gonna say it's been a waste of time. Apart from Xbox doing some pretty decent things, and like Nintendo to a lesser extent, but still like that extent, like just like kind of me out there. Like, it's most of these presentations have felt like this is what we have. Please understand, to bring out like a Nintendo meme, like and like that's like we're supposed to be cool with it. Like, I guess that's not cool at all, actually. I think that's the worst. We should have maybe just like canned this again. We didn't do E3 properly last year, and we probably should have not done it this year. Like, we should have had like these little like mini presentations, and people like Bandai could have done their thing last month and just went like, that's enough. We don't need to do another thing this time around because we have nothing else to present.
Well, let me ask you both this to end on that note. Do you think E3 will be back next year whether it be online or in the proper real world big scale show, because it didn't happen last year. It was noticeably down in 2019 when I went. It felt so much emptier. And then this year, besides Xbox and Nintendo, no one really had anything to say. So will it be back next year?
I think it's gonna happen, because the fans will expect it, and this is the fans at home, not necessarily the fans that would typically go, since it opened up to fans. But people are expecting, middle of the year, the press conferences come out, so there's going to be something. So they might as well call it E3, and they might as well do it under that umbrella. Whether it's going to be an in-person thing, that's a different scenario, because America do COVID their own way. So it's probably going to happen. Look, I've never been to an E3, so I couldn't really compare what it's like on the showroom floor. But this feels. I didn't think it was going to be a big impact for the average consumer that they're online. But they certainly do feel flat without the show floor.
That's probably a good point. The E3 people know at home is more or less what we got this year. It's conferences and videos announcing stuff. The E3 we've known to go to is actually what happens after that, which is getting to play a lot of these games for about 10 minutes, getting to chat to people, and that's where all the content comes from. And that's all the content we haven't had this year. We've had a couple of previews because we have that side of E3 hasn't happened. They've tried to do some like virtual web page portal thing, which I don't understand. Like, I've got an avatar of a man, which it made for me, and I don't really know what I'm meant to be doing. And so that it hasn't been E3. It could very well just be each publisher decides to do its Ubisoft Forward and its Xbox, whatever they call it, whenever they want in June or July, which is what PlayStation's doing. So
it seems like most of the hands-off previews we had were via like some sort of Microsoft Azure cloud solution. And like I have 7 iterations of my email apparently that I had to log into to get to the Square one or the Microsoft one or the I can't even anymore. Which like we're good, but like this has happened the entire year. It's like here's a 20-minute video that you can watch that like talks about the game, and it's like it's very marketing, like this is the most visceral game with visceral combat and visceral blah, blah, blah. Like it's that kind of shit. Like it's where it's PR just like really like hammering home their messaging. And if you were new to this kind of game, you'd be like, oh man, this is so visceral. And like if you're a little bit like more like cultured like experienced,
jaded,
that's the word. You're like, okay, yeah, like I get it, like cool, thanks for that. The only game we've had hands-on with the entirety of E3 is Rainbow Six Extraction. That was Hamish. So it's kind of just like you're getting like these very very crafted, very specifically messaged messages, because I'm tired of games sent at you, and like you either take it for what it is or you try to like get into the cracks to see things for what they are. I don't know. I feel like E3 is dying. It might not be this year. It might be next year or the year after. But like I feel like at this point, publishers realize they don't need to spend money to have a thing in physical space, and they can instead have this like live stream thing that has like a very focused message to try to focus and articulate what their game is without people critiquing it. Like
they certainly have a much greater level of control this way.
Yeah. So like I'd love to go to E3 again with all of you. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it might happen like maybe one more time, or maybe maybe 2 more times. I don't think that this is. I think it's a dying thing.
It was dying before COVID. It needed, and I think it knew in 2019 it needs to reinvent itself, and they were trying to figure out what to do, because a few years before that they opened it up to the public, and that just blurred it even more. Like, it used to be, there was an odd amount of trade people when it was trade only. Like, there was a small amount of people were journalists. A lot of people seemed to be like EB Games employees or whatever they're called in other countries. And it seemed to
GameSpot. Stop.
Shit. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so then they opened it to the public, and then then the publishers started to pull out. Like, Sony left, EA left a couple of years before, and they just parked across the street basically. But then they moved a bit further away.
Yeah,
Activision were in they still want to be there for the media. So like, I had a Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order appointment in the E3 convention hall to play hands-on in like a hidden little room which had no labels on it, because EA was officially not there. But they knew if they wanted the media to come and play it, they had to do it like that. So they kind of said, like, go to this room, there's no branding at all because we're not here. And then I went to go see COD across the road in the hotel room. Like, that's what their publisher still wanted, was that media coverage. And E3, the ESA for E3 kind of want to go the other way. They want it to be a PAX, so which has no announcements. Like, there's pointless going to PAX as media because it's not for you. So I think it's confused about what it wants to be. Gamescom do it by splitting it up. There's a section which is just media, and there's a section which is like millions of people. And yeah, I think E3 needs to decide what it wants to do.
Yeah, it's shit, really, because last year, the like 9th year that we had met Ben, we had sponsorship from Ubi and Microsoft. I think I can say this. I feel like I can say this. For us both sponsored. For us both to have gone and cover things and like have it, like, usually we go one person for the entirety of E3, and we had 2 people, and it was going to be like a fancy thing where we could like divide ourselves between 2 people and see things, and like also catch up, and like at the end of the night go to like a Tom's, whatever that's called, and just like have some beers and watch some basketball or whatever. And like, obviously COVID hit us, which is shit. But like, I don't know, like I feel like we've done as much coverage of games now than we did before times, and I can't see a transition back towards that, because it's so much more cost effective to not have to do that, like to just like pay for some more cloud, whatever the thing is that does this thing, to like make all the people of the world, like games journalist coverage wise, like to see a thing without having to like do something. And if it's like a 3 a.m. in Australian time, whatever, that's like, you deal with it, Australian people, because in North America it's like whatever o'clock a time, and it's fine. Whatever o'clock a time. I'm done. Ben,
that's probably a sign to wrap up.
Me.
I think that's us. We'll see if we're ever back at E3. I agree with you to an extent, but I think they'll try and get back to proper in-world things. That's just what marketing budgets are for, to try to get you in a good mood, enjoying yourself, not jaded at 3 a.m. So we'll see what happens. As Jay said, all this stuff is behind the closed doors. Most fans are not interested in this. They just want to see a video that shows them a bunch of great games, and it probably didn't happen to the extent that anyone wanted this year, especially if you didn't have an Xbox, basically, or you're not into Advanced Wars and Metroid. So that's basically it.
Definitely get Xbox Game Pass and an Xbox One, because you can probably
don't get an Xbox
but
One.
You can probably like Xbox Cloud it to your Xbox One if you don't have an Xbox, you can't afford it, or because they don't exist. Just
terrible advice. The Xbox One
that's
is
not
trash.
Terrible advice. That's
it couldn't run games at launch, like it was not getting 1080.
But it can stream them soon, I reckon. Anyway.
Get a 1X. I'll get a 1X. Don't get a 1. The real chunky one. No.
Jay, how do we find you on the internet?
Oh shit, you put me on the spot there.
Well, the first thing is Stevivor.com.
Well, there's that too. Well, you asked me. So Oh yeah, absolutely. I write for Stevivor. You can find me on Twitter as well. What is it? Balls Up JB, I think it is.
No,
BALL.
it's J Balls Up. Isn't
Oh,
it?
is that what it is? I don't know. I think I've had to change it a few times.
Just go to Stevivor and he'll have his links
just find me
appropriately.
there. Find me there. Don't worry, don't follow me on Twitter. Just pay attention to Stevivor. That's what's important.
Ben,
Well, you can follow me on Twitter if you like. Ben_Salter.
how do we find you on ASMR?
All right, Steve. You're done. You're done. Don't worry about where you can find Steve.
How many wines have you had, Steve?
I don't think you want to find him. Yeah.
That
Again,
many
this is mostly an audio medium, so
it's
he
empty.
held up an empty bottle.
The glass is full, by the way. Like I'm not that far gone. Anyway, goodbye.
Thanks for being here, guys. It's been a good end of E3. I enjoyed it. Thanks for coming on, Jade. Steve's just stopped hosting, so good to see you.
He's passed the torch.
Yeah, that's it. All right, we'll see you guys next time.
Have a good one.